We usually picture the figure of Odin, or Woden, as a pure myth, a god of war, poetry, and storms. But in the earliest surviving English records, he serves a highly specific practical function. He is documented as a literal great-great-grandfather to the ruling class. In early medieval historical texts, Woden isn't floating in some vague spiritual realm. He is the foundational anchor of finite, countable family trees. This manuscript is a piece of that record. Chronicles like Bede's and the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle placed Woden directly above historically documented kings like Hengest and Cerdic. For centuries, historians dismissed these precise placements as propaganda, assuming kings were padding resumes by claiming a god. But what if we treat these ancient lists differently? If we read them as precise chronological instruments, they might actually record exactly when the Northern European world fractured and rebuilt itself. To find the historical reality behind the name, we can read these royal pedigrees generationally. We start with a verifiable anchor figure at the bottom of the list, like Hengist, arriving in Britain around 449 CE, and count backward. Historians apply a standard demographic constant to these generations, usually between 20 to 30 years per step. When you run that math, you establish a Woden horizon. This chart maps the estimated Woden placement across independent Anglo-Saxon lines, like Kent and Wessex. The dates consistently cluster in a specific window, 250 to 450 CE. Scribes didn't project Woden into hazy prehistory. They tethered him to a limited historical band. The textual evidence shows us that the name Woden is tied to a distinct period of late Roman history. To figure out what was actually happening in that exact window, we need a different kind of science. Today, we can map early medieval population movements by extracting and analyzing ancient DNA from excavated human remains. This graph compares the scale of recent ancient genome datasets. A massive 2025 study sequenced over 1,500 ancient genomes from Europe, giving us an unprecedented look at the biological history of the continent. Researchers analyzed this data using TwigStats, a time-stratified tool capable of detecting highly subtle shifts in ancestry and gene flow among closely related populations over time. This map illustrates the physical movement those genes reveal. The DNA findings confirm that the period between 250 and 450 CE experienced explosive population movements, including heavy gene flow spreading out across Scandinavia, the Baltic, and the North Sea. The biological science independently verifies the conditions on the ground. The late Roman and early medieval period was a violently mobile demographic pressure zone. We now have two independent tracks of evidence, a textual timeline built from royal genealogies and a biological timeline built from ancient DNA. This timeline plots both datasets. The centuries scribes placed Woden in their family trees match exactly when DNA proves mass migration swept the North Sea. As Rome collapsed, continental ancestry flooded into Britain, aligning the biological spike with the textual horizon. This convergence tells us something vital about the ancient texts. These family trees are not works of fiction. They are codified data maps, recording the memory of a massive demographic transformation. We have to reevaluate Woden's place in these manuscripts. He is a structural, political memory of the North Sea migration horizon, anchored in the exact period when that migration was happening. During a highly unstable time, massive groups of moving people needed a way to organize their new political reality. Claiming a shared, unifying ancestor provided the structural glue for new kingdoms forming in a chaotic landscape. Genealogies track political memory, genomes track biological reality. When you lay them over each other, they point to the exact same historical upheaval. To dive into the exact manuscript calculations and DNA studies, read Christopher T. Knight's full paper at independent.academia.edu/chrisknight65 and discover more research at wodensman.com. Mythology rarely appears out of thin air. The gods our ancestors wrote about are often just the long shadows cast by their own survival.